Hello and welcome to Website Library. I'm going to be talking about web basics today, the very start of the web. So going back to the inventor, some basic terms, just to get orientated what it's all about. If you're coming from a background where you've got no idea, so stay tuned for that. You've also come here at an interesting time because it's the very start of Website Library. I've started this project to help people learn more about computers and the internet. I come from a background in web development. What I'm doing is putting together a library. I'm going through and curating various material that's out there and presenting that on the website and here on the YouTube channel, where you can learn more about computers and the web in a more structured way. I understand when you're there on Google and you're trying to find some information, it can get a bit daunting. So this is putting information that's already out there on the web into a framework where you can do your study in a more structured way. So that's what Website Library is all about. I hope to put more material onto the Website Library over time, so bear with me. I'm a one-man operation here and I can only move so fast. Stick around and hopefully things will grow over time. Anyway, I'm going to head over to the Website Library website to have a look at what's on offer there, which isn't too much at the moment. I've only got the one book on the shelf. How Website Library is constructed is it's actually using an application called Bookstack, which works in well with Website Library. Constructed with shelves and books, and then the pages within the books. And we've got one lonely book there at the moment, and that's Web Basics, and that's where I'm going to tie in the YouTube episodes with when I come up with a book in Website Library. So you can read through a little bit of the basic information I have on the homepage here. Although once the material starts to grow, the best place to go into will be into the shelves and having a look what the best shelf is for you. So at the moment, if we go in here, we can see one shelf, and that's the beginners, and this is going to have beginner books in there, and that's where Web Basics is sitting at the moment on its lonesome. So Web Basics, if we click through, we can see the material in there, and I've started with the history of the web. So click into history of the web. We come across this guy named Tim Berners-Lee, who's a British scientist, and he started the web back in, well, he came up with the concept in 1989, and it wasn't until 1991 that he actually published the first website on the CERN, from CERN. So I've put reference links here to CERN, so it shows a bit of material on who Tim Berners-Lee is and his contribution at CERN. Also the first web page that he came up with, and there's a YouTube video from CERN here. So there's some interesting material there from where the World Wide Web was actually born, and the guy who created the web. So good old Tim. Our next subject we've got here is the difference between the internet and the web, because they're not quite the same. I know people use the term internet, web interchangeably, and that's fine, but there is a difference. The internet does predate the web. The web sits on the internet. So there's some information here worth reading through, and also a good YouTube video by Quick Techie worth having a look at. So that explains a little bit of why the web is different to the internet. Okay, moving along, we're having a look at what a web browser is. Web browser is pretty important because that allows you to access the web and view web pages and a number of other things. So it's worth having a little bit deeper look at what a web browser is. I've also picked out some material to do some further research there. So your web browser, an important thing. And so there's a listing there to a few of the popular web browsers that are available at the moment. Okay, moving on to cookies. Now, cookies are a function of your web browser that uniquely identify you on the web, and it's a very useful thing for storing your preferences on a website. So it is a good thing, but of later on, with like in recent years, should I say, it's become a matter of privacy about what a lot of these companies, the information that they store on you. So you need to be a little bit aware of how websites are storing your, let's say, your browsing activity and all the things you are storing about yourself on the web. So it's a good idea to have a look at a website's privacy policy to see how they're storing this information about you. But anyway, cookies are the vehicle for storing that information about you. That all the data these days is generally not stored in the cookie itself. The cookie will just have a unique identifier, and that will unlock the information stored in databases on their website. So yeah, be careful with tracking, be a little bit aware, but it's a good idea to do some further investigation and understand what cookies are. So there's a section there on cookies. The next one along, talking about URLs. So a URL is a location on the web. It stands for Uniform Resource Locator. So it's much like an address in the real world. So you might live at 12 so-and-so street in a particular city. It's very much the same thing. It uniquely identifies a location on the web, and that may be a web page, or it may be a resource of some type, like an image or a sound. So it's good to understand what a URL is, and there's some information on that and a few examples of what a URL looks like. But generally, you will associate a URL as a web page. So www.google.com or something like that will be a URL. Okay, moving along, we have HTTP. Now this is an important one because this talks about the exchange of information with your computer to a server. So you're generally referred to as the client, and the client accesses the server. So you might put in a web address into your browser that will then go across the web to access or request the server. The server will then have a look to see if it has that resource available. If it does, it sends back a response code, and if that resource is sitting on the web server, it will generally be a 200 response, which is good. You don't generally see this. You can, using like an inspector on your web browser, actually see these responses that are sent in the header of the browser. But if you're just accessing the web with the web browser, you don't generally see this information, but it's good to understand what's going on in the background. Say you try and access a web page that doesn't exist. That's going to return a 404 response code back to your browser and display a message that page is not available. But there's a lot of these codes, say a 500 code, which is an internal server error. The server may be overloaded or having problems, and they represent a different thing. But it's a good idea to understand what these different codes are. So that's HTTP. There's some good material there, and a great video by David Zhang, who explains it really well what HTTP is. So I've included all these resources there to do a bit of research and further your knowledge on HTTP. And the last item I've looked at is IP, Internet Protocol. While it's not the web as such, it's more of the internet. The web does use IP, Internet Protocol, so it's a good thing to research. Internet Protocol is a protocol of the internet, so the web's sitting on top of that, and that's how information gets transferred from computer to computer using packets of information. Here there is some further resources there for you. Who have I used here? Techie again. They've got a great YouTube video on TCP IP worth having a look at. That's having a look at the web basics there. Do take some time to have a look through if your knowledge of the web is, or if you're just coming into it and you're wanting to find out more of this type of thing. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks a lot for coming along and having a look at Website Library. I hope to be putting more books up in the future to explain more things about the web and further your knowledge. As you can see, it's not just about tutorial information here. It's more about giving you resources that you can use on the web within the library. So yeah, I hope you've found this video interesting. Feel free to subscribe, give us a like, write a comment, whatever. Thanks for your time, and see you soon.